Happy to host you all. If you don't mind indulging me in a little history, I'll give you a little bit of company history first and then talk about the panel. So I could go on for a while, so I'll try to keep it brief. We started the business, my wife Karen and I, 15 years ago. Very humble beginnings. It was up at our house in Warren, really proof of concept, a one-barrel brewery that's just 30 gallons of beer, which is not much when you're selling it. So it was really a hobby turned business. I started homebrewing when I was a college student at the University of Vermont. A friend of mine introduced me to homebrewing, and I tried out his beer one day. I was like, wow, you made this? And he's like, yeah, I made this. I'm like, no way, this is better than what you can buy in the store. Can you show me how? He's like, I would love to. So I ran out and did what every aspiring homebrewer does, bought a copy of Charlie Papazian's The Complete Joy of Homebrewing and a kit to make my first batch, and not quite the rest is history. So 15 years out of college and a master's in forestry and a career in outdoor education and doing forest science research. But the brewing bug stuck with me, and my skills kept getting better and better over the years, so people kept encouraging me, family and friends, to open a business. And finally in 2006 decided to give it a try on a, like I said, proof of concept scale. So some friends and I built a little outbuilding next to our house in Warren, used my savings to purchase a very small brewing system, started selling the beer right away. It went away much faster than I could make it. Started planning for the first expansion, which took a couple of years. So 3 years in, expanded 7 barrels. 6 years in, demand was so overwhelming, it was like, what's next? Not quite ready for a lot of employees, didn't have the capital to build a much bigger place. So we found Two Roads Brewing, which is a brand new place down in Stratford, Connecticut, that had opened up with a model to brew their own beers, but also to do contract brewing. So we took our most popular beer at the time, Double Sunshine, and used that as the inspiration to develop a new beer called Sip of Sunshine, and that's the bright yellow can that has become our #1 flagship brand. Born and raised in Stratford, Connecticut, we still brew it there, and having that brewing location really helps us to brew the volume that we need to. Now we distribute all across the Northeast. So once we launched the Sip of Sunshine, it was here in Vermont at first, and this would have been 2014, so almost 10 years ago. And then quickly grew to add Connecticut for distribution, and then over the next few years added states across the Northeast, and then finally in 2019 we launched our last state that to date, and that was New Jersey in 2019. So now we're in all of New England, New York, New Jersey, and Pennsylvania. And one of the things I really like about that setup is that brewing beer in Stratford, Connecticut, and shipping it to the major metro areas gives us a lower carbon footprint, because beer is heavy, shipping is expensive. It's way more expensive now than it was just a couple of years ago, thanks to fuel prices and supply chain crunch. So even though we'd love to make all of our beer right here in rural Vermont, it's not really practical. One of the things we had to do when we built this facility, as we scaled the business, we looked at what's next after the Two Roads project became successful, and we'd always wanted a home for Lawson's Finest, because there was nowhere you could go. People would find us at the farmers markets in the early days. We'd host an annual anniversary event over at the Valley Players Theater, and those were just the few opportunities where people could interact directly with us. We didn't have a home for Lawson's Finest, so we had this idea, and the previous owner of this property approached us about wanting to exit his business, and the warehouse was here, perfect space for a brewery, and we did all of our due diligence, which took about a year and a half of just due diligence planning, and started to apply for permits, and then got things lined up, closed the deal, broke ground in 2017, and we opened up in October of 2018. Finally, this is our flagship destination facility. As I said throughout the building process, and I still say today, this is the last brewery that I'll build. That's why all my hair is gray now. But the success of our business and the popularity of craft beer has fortunately put us in a position to really invest in our values. from the beginning, Lawson's Finest Liquids has always been about today our mission is to craft and deliver the finest and freshest beers, and to create or to cultivate healthy, vibrant communities. The second part of our mission we do through our social impact program. You may be familiar with our Sunshine Fund, and that's a program at the tap room where we pay our staff a generous living wage and great benefits, 90% of their medical, 100% of dental, short-term, long-term disability, life insurance, a wellness benefit, generous paid time off, sick leave, 12 weeks of paid family leave. We're really proud of the benefits that we offer to our employees. And so through that Sunshine Fund, instead of tips, our employees solicit or offer our guests the opportunity to make a donation to a good cause. And we support healthy communities through nonprofit organizations here in Vermont that support food and economic security programs, social welfare like mental health, and then the other part of healthy communities is places to recreate. So we support conservation and sustainable recreation. Groups like the Green Mountain Club, the Mad River Riders that maintain the biking trails here in the valley. So those are the type of organizations that we support, which brings us to today. And from the beginning of the business, we've always tried to invest in the best equipment possible, state-of-the-art equipment, and we wanted to be as green as possible. So when we planned and designed the facilities, we worked with Efficiency Vermont to get all of the most efficient lighting, the most efficient HVAC systems, looked at VFDs, pumps, motors. We recapture heat off of the brewing kettle, which I can show you at the end. If anyone wants a quick tour of the brewery, we can pop into the brewery, we can take a look at that. And then from the beginning, we've been investing in solar. The first project is on top of the roof of the brewery, which now that we're back far enough, you can kind of see the panels. Both sides of the brewery roof. Nils was speaking in AC numbers, I think. I have the DC numbers memorized, which that's like a 53 kilowatt DC project. So that was the first one that we worked with Aegis. And then the next year, so that went in when the brewery opened in 2018. The next year, we started working with Suncommon on this installation, and I'll let James tell you a little bit more about the specifics. This is about a 215 kilowatt DC project. Between those two, that got us about halfway to our goal of generating the equivalent of 100% of the power that we use. So about 50% of the power that we consume, we generate and put back onto the grid, that amount through those two installations. And then the last part we'll talk about over at the warehouse. But this was a really fun project and a not so fun project when you start digging in the ground and discover that the design for the structural needs to be different, because guess what? The village of Irisville is built in the wetlands before they were classified as wetlands. So the soils here are all clay and silt. They're not very good load-bearing soils, and so we had to do deep, wide foundations, which is the same issue we ran into over at the brewery. The brewery foundation we had to redo for the weight of all the equipment and the tanks full of liquid, and that is a 24 to 30 inch thick slab with a double mat of rebar. There is about 220,000, there's about 110 tons of steel in the foundation and 550 yards of concrete. So it was 55 truckloads that came in one day. We've got an amazing time lapse of that foundation going in. So as I warned you at the beginning, my stories can be kind of long. So let's get back to solar. This project came online in November of 2021, I believe. And what amazed me the most was in January, when the entire thing was buried in snow, I was like, wait, how did we make 3,000 some odd kilowatts of power in January when it's mostly dark and the days are really short and the panels are covered in snow? I don't know the technology that well, but I do know they're called bifacial panels. So when the ground is covered with snow and the sun is shining, it's reflecting sunlight back up and you're generating power on the other side of the panels. too. So with that long-winded introduction, I'll let James talk a little bit more about this specific project, and then finally point out the EV charging stations that you already heard about. We put in 16 total. We started with 4 over at the brewery, 2 Tesla, 2 standard, what do they call it? CCS is the standard plug. So 2 ports over at the brewery, standard, 2 Tesla, and then 12 additional charging ports here at the Canopy that are, I don't know how exactly they're configured, whether they're behind, whether they use the power right from the project or from the grid, but regardless, we wanted to encourage people to invest in the next generation of vehicles as well, by providing lots of charging stations.
Cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I'll be relatively brief. Been standing all day. We had a really exciting day at Suncommon. We had the entire federal delegation and the administrator from the EPA at our office today, launching a $7 billion program, Solar for All. So my back is stiff. But it was this kind of project that brought the EPA administrator to our office, and the kind of work that we do at Suncommon, really focusing on helping homeowners and businesses live their values with solar at their homes or at their businesses. And one of the things that I love about the canopies are it's such a visual representation of your values. It's right here. And it also makes that actual physical connection between generating our electricity and powering our transportation and plugging the cars right in. So from an accounting standpoint, it's likely that the power, goes from here to the power utility company, and the power utility company has their bill that has the EV chargers on it, blah, blah, blah. The reality of physics is this solar power charges up that car, which is really, really cool. And so this is one of the largest, if not the largest, solar canopies in the state. It's just over 200 kW DC, 215-ish kW DC, which is 150 kW alternating current AC, which is kind of a permit threshold here in Vermont. And really it was, Martin, did you work on it? I thought so. So Martin actually worked on installing this project, may have turned some of the bolts, so tip my hat to you. It's a gorgeous showcase, but also tip my hat to Lawson's for leaning in. Canopies are not the easiest way to go solar. I will tell you that from the beginning. Like you mentioned, the foundations, that's half of it. You've got to do site-specific engineering for the foundations and site-specific engineering for the structure. Whereas you put it on the roof, you already have a structure that you paid for. So this, however, provides additional benefit. Obviously, covered parking, which can be a tremendous benefit. Reduce plowing costs, reduce salting costs. Although you still got to salt in the winter because some water comes through along the drip edges, as you can see
where it drips.
about every 8 feet, approximately. But as I mentioned over there, this is kind of a passion for Suncommon and our parent company, iSun. And we've spent the last year or so inspired by this canopy, where Sean listened to the community and said, look, we don't want a big, ugly steel structure in the center of downtown. We want something that looks good. We don't want our values to be ugly. Credit to Sean and team, they said, great, we'll figure out how to do this wood cladding. It's a steel structure. The wood is purely aesthetic. That added another layer of additional expense that the brewery picked up to make this fit in the community. So not everyone's able to do that, or not everybody would choose to do that. So credit to you for doing so. But part of what it inspired on our end is said, all right, we need to actually create a beautiful canopy, because most canopies are not attractive. So we've been working for the last year or so engineering a canopy that will work in commercial settings that actually is much lower embodied carbon. It's a lot of steel to a lot of carbon. So we're looking for a lower embodied carbon, more attractive canopy product. So if you and your communities are interested in learning more, I'd love to chat with you about it. Sean mentioned there have been, it was Jeff mentioned, the federal legislation that was passed is a game changer for, and potentially a game changer for Vermont communities. It used to be that only businesses could access these kind of solar arrays without, involving a third-party owner and a power purchase agreement and so on and so forth. Because there's so much federal support through a federal tax credit. So you need to pay taxes to avail yourself of the tax credit. Now, with the passage of the Inflation Reduction Act, there is direct payment for municipalities. So they can get the value of that tax credit directly given to them as cash payment from the federal government to help support projects like this. So it opens up these types of projects to nonprofit organizations, to schools, to municipalities. There's still financing, there's still expensive projects, but a lot more flexibility that we are really excited. I know we have tremendous respect, and Aegis works on projects like that as well. So good folks here in Vermont that you can work with on municipal projects moving forward. So,
James,
yeah.
Until when is the Inflation Reduction Act money available?
Yeah, that program is, that was perhaps the best thing about the Inflation Reduction Act is that it has a 10-year horizon. So it's like, none of this kind of like, this year, these projects take time to plan, they take time to permit, get through the utilities approval. So, but in terms of the runway, we've got a lot of solar we need to get out into our communities, and we've got a little bit of time to do it, which is exciting.
Another question. What is the financial incentive for municipalities?
Yeah.
What do you know what it is?
Yep. The canopy that we've been engineering will get a 40% tax credit paid directly from the federal government to a municipality if they, go solar with.
So if it's $100, they get $40 cash back.
$40 cash back on $100.
Or $400,000.
Yep.
$4 million.
Yeah, we just modeled a project for a school in Vermont, fairly large scale canopy. And that would be, I think the simple payback was 13 years. So if it were paid upfront, you get 40% back from the federal government, and then you'd have to, pay it off over 13 years, and then after that, for the remaining, long life of the project, you'd have free electricity effectively.
What's the life expectancy of this?
Oh gosh. The panels have a 25-year warranty on them. I think this structure is going to be here probably a lot longer than that. And you take basic care of it. This structure should be here just like any building is for generations potentially. We'll probably, take the panels off in 20 years and put more powerful ones on. But yeah, these are built to last, and that's what we need: lasting climate infrastructure.
There's a project in Beverly, Massachusetts that was 150 kilowatt solar array. It was 3,000 solar panels. They were all about this big, but it just got decommissioned, and it was built in the Carter administration about 40-some years ago, and it was operating up until last year.
Yes.
So, and those were first generation solar panels. So now the solar panels, the design, it's more robust and everything. So these should be making power 35 years from now easily.
And the 25-year warranty is that they'll be producing what
80%.
percentage? 85%.
Yeah, it depends on the module. It's usually somewhere between 80 and 85-ish percent, even after that kind of time.
Yes.
Good to see you.
Good to see you too. From a financing perspective for schools and municipalities, are you are PPAs kind of gone, like power purchase agreements, and then is it typically bonding that you're seeing in the schools being for market systems?
This is new.
Yeah.
It's totally new, so I don't think we're seeing anything yet. I think that some municipalities and schools will choose to go the bonding route. Some communities will say, look, we have limited bonding capacity and we got to spend it over here on our roads or whatever. And for them, there will be other finance, like we have other finance partners, but there are going to be models where you can bring in a lease partner, but the community can still take the tax credit. And maybe it's capital lease, so they don't have to access their bonding capacity or utilize that. So I think it's just, we're going to see over the next couple of years what kind of financing becomes the favored. But I think we have more choices now, which is cool for communities.
Yeah, and just wondering, like, for schools and municipalities, maybe it's the lower cost of energy versus payback. And I'm just wondering how you pitch that to, entities like that. So
Yep.
instead of paying whatever GMP, what we got for a rate,
Well, that's again,
yeah.
not determined yet. All
Yeah.
of it, but like, you're 18 cents kilowatt.
And so
Yeah.
if you can get to 16 cents a kilowatt hour, then you're winning right out of the gates, provided your financing and everything else works out. And I just didn't know if you're seeing bonding or financial, funding partners are providing that.
We definitely have funding partners. So we ran it both ways for this school that we were just modeling for. And they're in a different utility, so they have even lower rates. They're like, and it's a decent sized school, so it's like they're comparing it to 9 or 10 cent power costs. So for them, frankly, the better proposition was probably wrapping it into a bond. We have a third-party provider, but you're paying a premium, in part because it's solar on a roof or on a canopy that you've built, but it also provides other value to the school, so they're trying to figure out how to wrap their heads around the other value. But
I can give you a little bit of perspective. We're building a 300 kilowatt project right now at Champlain Water District on their drying sheds at the water treatment facility. And they are a quasi-municipal entity that's not for profit. And they're taking the investment tax credit. This is the first project we've ever built where a nonprofit is taking the tax credit. And they're bonding that project. and it works out really well. The bonding rates are 3% or so, whereas a business, they're going to be paying 7% for interest at least on a construction loan or even a long-term loan. So the benefit, on that financing piece is really significant for a municipality or nonprofit.
And we, to the town of Waitsfield, what we did with our solar array, which Aegis had developed, up on Tremblay Road, that we went into partnership with the school. So the town didn't have pretty much a big enough electric energy footprint. And so we partnered with the big user in their town, which was the school. And so we did a shared energy agreement where the school essentially, they receive credits on their bill, and so they'd only pay back 90% of the value of those credits. So the school wins, the town wins, and obviously we get a broader.
our planet wins.
Yeah. And the other thing right now is a lot of municipalities have ARPA funds, and they're just sitting on all these funds that they haven't really allocated yet, and that could easily get funneled into the solar project.
So, Sean, I didn't know if you mentioned it. So, the chargers, are those, I plugged in, so I'm waiting to see whether I get charged or not.
Yeah, they were free for the first year, a little bit more than a year, and then when we saw how much giving the power away for free was costing us, they were a little bit more popular than we anticipated. So now it's your standard, I think it's like 20 cents a
How
kilowatt.
much use do you think they get? I mean, I was just
They get
scanning
They get a lot.
They get a lot of use. Yeah. Yep.
And do you feel like the economics are?
Well, now that we're charging for the power, that that'll offset the cost of the power, but the upfront cost of the installation, I don't think we'll ever recoup that. That was more of a values investment. I mean, we could charge more per kilowatt hour and potentially over time recover that cost. Thanks to the Green Mountain Power, there was an incentive, so that offset a small portion of the cost of installing the stations, but not a lot. With the IRA, I don't know, I don't know for small businesses if there's anything to fund EV charging like that. Nothing that I'm aware of as of yet. We'd like to get a couple of fast chargers in here.
Yeah.
Eventually. So.
And we did one fast charger at Taste Place, just through the trees, and then have a couple up in Burlington. We had customers who are like, "Oh my gosh, you charge 30 cents kilowatt hour! Like, this station cost $150,000 to put in. Do you have any idea how many 30 cents we need to collect?" They're really expensive still. So the public money, there is public money, but it tends to be oriented toward large networks.
Yeah.
And not so much kind of the
Speaking personally, I'm very grateful for the one in Burlington.
Oh, good. Good.
It makes going to Montreal much more feasible.
Yeah. Yep.
And I've asked a number of times, but all I get is silence trying to get in touch with Tesla to see about superchargers. So we gave them we have the visitation here is pretty good. We see about 150,000 visitors a year. So.
Very cool.
James, I had a question.
Should
for
we
you.
take?
Sorry.
Yeah, more questions,
Just,
and then we can take a walk over to.
What do you mean by large networks?
Delivering a lot.
Like you said, the chargers are geared towards large networks. What does that mean?
Yeah, so they're looking at for companies that can deploy thousands of chargers across the entire company that have ChargePoint is kind of like on the periphery of that with their business model where they kind of sell their units to people who want to host them. But there are others like EVgo or Blink or Electrify America who have fast charger networks all across the country. And Tesla's network is by far the
more
biggest.
allocated. It's more for them, the money.
Yeah, because they're focused on real like charging corridors, making sure that every highway across the country, you can get from here to there. That's where most of the money is focused. Less so off the beaten path.
I'll add some color there. There is a grant, July 6th, Green Mountain Power, the administrator of a grant through Vermont Housing and Community